pledge first.
Are you ready? You're ready? Okay.
Are we ready?
Well, Heather's going to start us off.
Well, I'm going to start by having
Okay.
you do the pledge. Then
Then we'll have Heather.
Yes.
Yes.
she doesn't know we're going to do the pledge. No, no. All right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Set you.
Let me say hello and let you do it.
Well, we're going to do that. Then you can say it.
Let me at least say this, and then we're going to do the join us for the pledge. If everyone will please.
Whatever.
Everyone, we're going to get started. Dr. Lindley is going to lead us in the pledge. If you'll please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated, please. Heather?
What a fantastic way to open our program today. We'd like to welcome you to the Gillespie County Historical Society and Pioneer Museum First Weekend Friday program. I'm Heather McCarver, Executive Director. A special thank you to the Hill Country Historical Foundation for underwriting our live stream, and hello for everyone joining us remotely. Today's program, as well as those from previous speakers, are available on our website. And we'd like to start with a little housekeeping. If everybody would please silence your phones, we appreciate that. Our restrooms are located down the ramp and in the adjacent room. We have a selection of museum store items available today, including our book of the month and information on how to become a museum member. I hope that you will visit our museum store for book and gift selections often. We're open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 5. If you didn't get a door prize ticket when you came in, please see the store table before the end of the program. The door prize was donated by the Friends of Gillespie County Schools and the Pioneer Museum store. Thank you to everyone who made a contribution to our donation box. Proceeds from today will be shared between GCHS and the Friends Group. Volunteers from the Friends Group support our living history activities throughout the year here at the Pioneer Museum. And without their support, we would not have as many wonderful programs and representation in our White Oak School. So thank you so much. At this time, I'll introduce our staff in the room. Marilee Pankratz is our development partner. Jessica Dion is our retail and service manager. Carter Robertson is our collections manager behind me here. Caitlin Hoover is in charge of education and museum activities. And Evelyn Weinheimer is our historian and archivist, as well as serving on the advisory board for the director of Friends Country School. I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to introduce our program.
Good afternoon. Before we begin, the Friends lost a special lady this week, Bernice Kuntz Weinheimer. I want us to remember her for a moment. She was the catalyst. She was the instigator of the Friends of the Gillespie County Country Schools. I want all of you who were with her on that journey to the legislature, made phone calls, to please stand, and as she wanted, make this a joyful remembrance. Everybody stand that was with her on that journey. As you've read, our program today is about a treasure, the landmark schoolhouses of Gillespie County. There were as many as 44 one-room schoolhouses in the county. In other words, 44 independent school districts with the county judge as a superintendent, and yes, he tried to visit every one of them once a year. Education for our children has always been a foremost part of the county's development. School in the Vereinskirche began as early as 1847. Then when families began to move out to their outlots and eventually their larger parcels of land, the one-room school began to appear in the smaller communities of the county. As long as there were sufficient numbers of school-age students in the community, the school remained viable, especially at the elementary level. None of the schools offered sufficient high school level curriculum and could not offer accreditation necessary for any higher education opportunities. I went to high school with this panel today, but I'm not one who attended a country school. There was not a sufficient number of school-age students when I was to start at Knopf School. Soon after, as with many of our buildings, we now have 12, 13, 14, 15 approximately yet, they were bought or sold or went back to the landowner, so they were no longer part of the schools of the county. Other school districts, though, retained ownership of the buildings, which became community centers. In 1999, word got out that Fredericksburg Independent School District was going to sell the 12 remaining buildings, school buildings, that were then community centers. And that's when Bernice got going. With a group of people here in the county with a strong feeling for historic preservation, they all became involved in community meetings with school and government officials, local preservationists, former county school students, and other residents. All of these things that I have just mentioned, this panel is going to tell you more about this afternoon. Creating the Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools required a state constitutional amendment to transfer control of the properties to Gillespie County. This afternoon, again, they will share with you and how their efforts paid off. They will also share their experiences attending school in a one-room country school. And many of them, like me, I remember fondly the experiences of my parents, my grandparents, that they shared with me. My mother's family at Cherry Spring, my dad at Pilot Knob and Rady. And they are going to go into more details about all of these schools. Dr. James Lindley, who is the director at large of the association, is going to be the panel facilitator. Carrie Behrens represents Luckenbach. Ribby Clark, Pecan Creek. Joella Lewis, Cherry Spring, and Marjorie Oddie, who now serves as vice president of the organization, will be our fourth speaker. Thank you all.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and I think there's a real treat in store this afternoon as you hear about the country schools. This is all about community. This community of people got together. Originally, the communities developed around these small schools out in the country, and then over time, after 1949, when the School Consolidation Act occurred, the community clubs continued. So what you will hear about is, as Evelyn said, how this group of people, this community of individuals, some 500 to 800 individuals, got together, and with the help of the Senator Hildebrand, Wentworth, and Representative Hildebrand, they created the statute that was eventually passed and ultimately went to a referendum across the state and was passed by a very high 90-some-odd% margin, and then that allowed the change in the Constitution. So Kerry Behrens is going to start off and tell us about his experience and talk about Luckenbach.
Well, I'm going to start a little bit earlier than that. In today's study, it's necessary to understand the impact that the German immigrants and their founding of Gillespie County. One of the most notable colonization initiatives in Texas was undertaken by the Aldersverein. Excuse me. Need a little help. There we go. The Adelsverein was known as the German Immigration Company, which was established in Biebrich, Germany in April of 1842, with the objection of founding German settlements in the Republic of Texas. Authorization was given to settle 1,000 immigrant families of German, Dutch, Swiss, Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian descent under what became known as the Fisher-Miller land grant. The Republic of Texas issued colonization land grants totaling close to 4.5 million acres. By 1845, political conditions changed, from making way for the Republic of Texas to petition for statehood, naming Texas the 28th state of the Union in December 1845, although the formal transfer was not finalized until February of 1846. In 1846, the Prussian-born expatriate Baron Ottfried Hans Freiherr von Weusenbach played a significant leadership in bringing German immigrants seeking social, economic, and political freedoms with aspirations to establish a distinct German community in the largely unsettled Central Texas territory. He led 120 immigrants sponsored by the Adelsverein to found Fredericksburg, present Fredericksburg, demonstrating his commitment to integrating with the Texas society. Moisebach renounced his noble title, adopting the name John O. Moisebach, which is a whole lot easier to write down. Surveyors refused to enter the Fisher-Miller grant territory for fear of attack, as this was also the hunting grounds of the Comanche Indians. In order for surveying and settlement to occur, it was necessary to arrive at an agreement with the Native Americans to allow passage into their territory. Moisebach and a delegation of German settlers met with 10 Comanche chiefs and on the lower San Saba River. Among those who were present were the head chiefs, Buffalo Hump, Santa Ana, Mopachi, Mopapicho, Mopochupoke, I think it's what it's pronounced, which means Old Owl, and their people. During Moisebach's tenure was as general commissioner of the company from May 1845 until July of 1847, a total of 5,257 immigrants, German immigrants, settled in Texas. By 1850, Germans comprised approximately 5% of the population in Texas. Believing this primary duties fulfilled, Moisebach resigned from his position as commissioner of the Commissioner General of the Adelsverein. In 1851, he returned briefly to Germany and used this opportunity to formally sever remaining ties with the Adelsverein. While abroad, Moisebach was also elected to represent Berg, Medina, and Comal counties in the Texas State Senate, which started in November of that year. He participated actively on the Committee on State Affairs, on State Affairs and the Commission on Education, where he championed universal and mandatory education. In 1852, his efforts contributed to the passage of a bill establishing a statewide public school system. The influx of German settlers introduced new cultures, cultural traditions, and languages and educational philosophies to the region. Early educational infrastructures consisted of modest one-room buildings, but built from local materials and supported by the community. Many teachers were recent immigrants themselves. providing a bilingual instruction in German and English to help students retain their heritage while assimilating into the new Texan society. These foundational schools reflected a persistent dedication to education, community cohesion, and the preservation of cultural identity. The value placed on education by the new settlers was very considerable. The first public structure in Fredericksburg was, as mentioned, the Vereinskerk, established by the Adelsverein almost immediately after the town's founding, and constructed on Hauptstraße in 1847. Built in the Carolingian octagonal style, and informally known as the Kaffeemühle, which is the coffee mill. This multi-purpose building served as a church, school, community hall, and if necessary, the fortification, because before the United States Army could complete Fort Martin Scott, German settlers had already erected this landmark, which stood in the middle of town for 50 years. Fredericksburg Inaugural School operated within the Vereinskerk under Johann Leindecker in 1847. A petition to create Gillespie County was submitted in December 1847, and the legislature subsequently formed the county from portions of Bexar and Travis counties in 1848. Housing was initially limited to small cabins, reflecting both the financial constraints and the practical necessities of the time. This logic was mirrored in the creation of country schools. The prioritization of educational institutions at the outset of the community development highlighted the importance placed on education, a philosophy deeply rooted in the homeland. Community spirit and social responsibility were also fundamental values among settlers who emphasized the role of religious congregation and the educational establishments. With families settling further and further away from the urban center of Fredericksburg, early rural education often involved employing tutors to instruct children in private residences. As communities grew, private schools emerged. In 1854, Texas enacted legislation to establish a public education framework providing for common schools funded by state and local resources. The Germans who immigrated to Central Texas had come with the enlightened and progressive ideals of Europe and were adamant in their appeal for free public schools. A mass meeting of Germans held in San Antonio demanded that the state establish tuitionless public schools. And when the state school law was passed in 1854, later that year, Gillespie County Commissioners Courts divided the county into 5 school districts. And by the end of 1858, there were 5 free public schools in Gillespie County with a total of 250 students. By 1875, there were 1,522 students in the county. Now, Wilhelm Victor Keitel, a native of Hildesheim, Germany, moved to Fredericksburg, where he was appointed by John O. Meusenbach to be the Verein physician, the county's first doctor. He also became the county's first chief justice. But Dr. Keitel longed for a quiet life in the country doctor, and soon after hanging out his shingle in big downtown Fredericksburg, he relocated to a farm on the Pedernales River, not far from the mouth of Bear Creek in southern Gillespie County. He called that settlement Pedernales. For any settlers who would relocate with him, he agreed to give them free medical care. By 1850, the settlement had 44 residents of German descent. As the village of Pedernales grew, Dr. Keidel and some of his neighbors organized the Live Oak School, one of the first schools in the county. The doctor served on the County School of Trustees. Then in 1865, Dr. Keidel moved back to Fredericksburg. He left the village with 2 stores, a cotton gin, a school, and just shy of 50 scattered residents. And Dr. Keidel died in Fredericksburg in 1870. The community built a native limestone schoolhouse sometime prior to 1875 to house grades 1 through 7. School was the community was the center of the community life. For the next 70 years, their time stood still in Pedernales. It was a community, but never really gathered enough steam to become a town. In 1949, Live Oak School consolidated with Reedy School. And when the school closed, the Pedernales community slowly died. Today, the old schoolhouse is a private residence. It is the only remaining visible trace of Pedernales, Texas. According to the 1892 school district map, up to 44 schools were operated in Gillespie County. In many cases, eventually land was donated by the families in the area, and community schools were built, taking names descriptive of nearby natural landmarks or German heritage is evident by incorporating family names. Luckenbach was settled by German colonists, such as the Luckenbach family, who arrived in Texas from Germany on the first wave of colonists to Fredericksburg in 1846. In 1852, the Luckenbachs moved southeast to the area that it came to bear the family name, and became naturalized citizens. In July of 1855, 2 acres of land along Grape Creek, purchased by from Peter Pale for all of $4. After the land was acquired, the men in the community built a small log schoolhouse. Luckenbach School Precinct Number 3, which covered Luckenbach, Grapetown, South Grape Creek, and Grape Hill, was one of 5 schools created in Gillespie County. After the state set aside $2 million for a permanent school fund. District 3, which was the Luckenbach School District, received approximately $23.55. The first teacher was paid $20 a month to teach 10 students. Many families who settled in the area paid $1 per child per year. During the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, as students' population increased, necessary structural changes were made to the building. A new schoolhouse of native limestone was built in 1905, and in 1910, the Grape Hill School was consolidated into the Luckenbach School District. In order to adhere to the state Gilmer-Aiken Act that limited the number of students per teacher, a second classroom was built to make it a 2-teacher school. I had the privilege of being a student at this 2-room schoolhouse. My teacher for the first grade through the 4th grade was Mrs. Sidonia Avers. Barbara Pale and I were the only students in the class. Classes preceding and following ours were large classes. They each had 6 students. And then when we moved into the upper grades, which was in the other classroom, our teacher was Mr. E.C. Fiedler. He retired after teaching more than 25 years in the Luckenbach School. A number of other teachers followed before the school was consolidated into the Fredericksburg Independent School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Yes, it was it's very interesting history. The people who immigrated to this area were highly educated people, and they really wanted good education for their children. So, Ruby, would you like to tell us a little bit about Pecan Creek and, I'm sorry.
My teacher for the seventh and eighth grades My teacher for the 7th and 8th grades was Joseph Weinheimer. School started at 9 o'clock in the morning and ended at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I had 2 classmates, Elmer Todge and Freddie Gaiman, all 8 years. There were about 20 students in school, the older ones helping supervise the younger ones. I had to learn to speak English, although the teacher understood German. I had heard and learned some English at Sunday school, which helped a lot. We had to do our housekeeping, dusting the erasers from the chalkboard, sweeping the floor, and minor work details. We had a schedule of who had to do which chore. Sometimes on Fridays, we had a fun time after the last recess. On Valentine's Day, we exchanged valentines. Someone made a pretty box, and everyone got to place their valentines addressed to other students in the box. Then they were passed out, and there were refreshments. One year at Halloween, we had a party and invited Cherry Springs School students to come. The windows on the pavilion stayed closed, so it was dark in there. The boys had cut cedar so one could get lost in the forest, and scary sounds were made to scare everyone. It was fun. Softball was the most popular game. We had a league, and on Friday afternoons, either we went to another school or another school would visit us. We piled on the back of pickups or in station wagons, as all the students got to go, whether they were on the team or not. Parents came and enjoyed the day, rooting for our team. We had cold soda water to drink afterwards for 5 cents a bottle. We could also buy candy bars or chips for 5 cents each.
Where are you? Oh, there you are. Would you stand, please? We have been successful in collecting a number of oral histories, and we do have quite a collection of oral histories from former students as well as some of the teachers. And it's quite interesting to hear the stories of all of the activities that went on in the country schools. One of the important things that happened, of course, was electricity. Now, the city of Fredericksburg's first electric plant was built and operated from 1896-97 in that time frame. But out in the country, there was no electricity. That didn't happen until the Rural REA, the Rural Electrification Act, that came administration that was part of the many things that happened during the Depression years. So with that, the Pedernales Electric Co-op was formed, and then eventually power was distributed across the rural parts of Gillespie County, which made a difference for the schools, because prior to that, whenever it was dark, it was a kerosene lamp, the windows, and if you look at the architecture of many of the schools, you will see the way in which the windows were arranged was basically a way not only to provide light into the building, but also for ventilation. So they paid attention to the position of the buildings as they constructed them across the county. Okay, now we'll move on to Pecan Creek. And Ruby Clark is going to tell us about that.
I'm so tall, so I need to change this. Is that good? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, I attended the Pecan Creek School for 4 years. It was 15 minutes from my home. I had good teachers, and I had two wonderful classmates. Oops. Sandra Friedrich and Sylvia Weinhammer. Here we go. As a happy country school student, we were told at the end of my 4th year in school that we would no longer be able to return to school another year. For years, I worried and wondered why this happened. I could not understand how this great experience could happen. I asked my dad, and he simply said, "Sorry, but it's the law." After talking to Evelyn Weinhammer, we became kind of a partner in trying to figure out what happened. And her husband also attended Pecan Creek, Reuben Weinhammer. She found information in the book along the way, which I saw on the table over there, by Dan Udley. And this is a quote from the book. After World War II, many young people left family farms and fled to the city for higher education, jobs, etc. So, in 1947, Buford Jester introduced the Gilmer-Aiken Act. And in 1949, Governor Allen Shivers signed it into law. In Pecan Creek, we dropped to 14 students, one below the required 15, which was why we had to close the year we did. In parentheses also, a quote, "This law led to the wholesale consolidation of country schools across the state of Texas. As a direct of this action, countless county schools were sold, returned to property owners, or just plain disappeared. Here locally, some were advertised in our local paper for bids to the highest bidder. My husband and I were approved by the bank to bid on the Moores Ranch School for $15,000. We did not get the school. The Haversack Wine Company outbid us, and they paid $17,000. So, as a happy country school student, this changed our whole community. There were some older kids going to high school, so we carpooled with them. 8 kids piled into a 51 Chevy every morning and thundered down the highway to go to school. I went to St. Mary's for 5th, 6th, 7th grade. After much pressure from our parents, we finally got a school bus to come our way. I then went to public school in the 8th grade. I got on the school bus at 6:45 and got off at 5:15. As most well-intended changes, they are good for some, but for me, not so good. I like going to the country school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we have a little quiz for you. Just as, we're in school, and so we have pop quizzes, and here's the pop quiz. 10 of the country schools were named for creeks. So how many can you name? Can anybody name just one? Williams Creek. Okay, we got one. Pecan Creek. Yes, that's Cave Creek. All right. Anything? Squaw Creek. Yes. Palo Alto Creek. No? No? Grape Creek. All right, well, let's see the answers. See how well we did. There they are. Cave Creek, Lower South Grape Creek, Moisebach Creek, Pecan Creek, Williams Creek, Bear Creek, Honey Creek, Onion Creek, Squaw Creek, and Wolf Creek. So you did pretty well. We'll give you a passing score. Next. All right, Joella. We're going to hear from Joella, and she's going to tell us all about Cherry Springs School and other things.
Well, it's really not going to be about Cherry Springs School. My presentation is going to be about how we preserved the 12 country schools that we still have not as a school, but as a community today. And it was through the work of Bernice Weinheimer that we kept these 12 rural schools in the community, and community clubs meet there, and we have worked to preserve them and improve them and try to restore them to the way they used to be. In April 1999, a person notified Bernice Weinheimer that the Fredericksburg Independent School District had plans to sell the 12 rural schools in Gillespie County. At that time, Bernice Weinheimer was president of the Stonewall Heritage Society. One of their projects was collecting history of the rural areas. They had been doing tours of rural schools and documenting their histories. Bernice decided to call Judy Starks, which at the time was an officer in the Lower South Grape Creek School. They immediately started making plans as to what they could do to prevent the sale of those 12 schools. They called a friend, Robert Vanderlyn, an attorney, and Ronnie Pugh, a Texas educator, and asked for their assistance with the projects. These 4 people then contacted representatives from each of the schools and set up a meeting that met April 19th, 1999. This was held at the Lower South Grape School. 11 schools were represented. Officers were elected. Ronnie Pugh was elected chairman, Martha Arndt's co-chair, and Bernice Weinheimer secretary. All in attendance agreed that the community should try to work out an agreement with FISD to keep the schools from being sold. All of the representatives of each school were asked to gather information in regards to the history of their respective school. The group met again in May. Prior to that time, Ronnie Pugh and Howard Mertz met with the superintendent of FISD, which was Dr. Mark Williamson, and discussed what options were available. On May 24th, 1999, the group met again. 80 people were present, and that was quite a crowd in Lower South Grape Creek School. They included Dr. Williamson and Mike Wiest, a representative of FISD, members from the Gillespie County Commissioner's Court, and John Klein from the Gillespie County Historical Commission. Dr. Williamson stated that based on current laws, the schools could be sold to government agencies for their appraised value or sold to the public by sealed bid. Legislation to change the law could be the answer to save the schools. With that information, the Friends of Gillespie County Rural Schools realized they needed to take political action. They contacted Senator Jeff Wentworth and Representative Harvey Hildebrand. They asked them to draft legislation. The bill that was drafted provided for a legislative-approved constitutional amendment which allowed the conveyance of properties without due compensation to a nonprofit organization. The properties could be donated to a municipality, a county, or a nonprofit organization in order to preserve the property. Needless to say, much work went into getting the legislation passed. Friends of Gillespie County Rural Schools contacted other counties in Texas to provide information and to solicit support. They did fundraising. The first was a calendar that they made, a picture of each school for each month, and sold that calendar to make some money. Then, other things that they did is they did research on public education, met with legislators in Austin, attended education committee hearings, made phone calls, and members testified at the House of Representatives and the Texas Senate. Articles were also sent to newspapers throughout the state. In November of 2001, Proposition 13 passed with 80% of the Texans voting yes and 90% of Gillespie County citizens voting yes. Amendment 13 authorized the Board of Trustees of an independent school district to donate certain surplus district property to a city, a county, or nonprofit organization in order to preserve the property. The donated property would have to continue to be used as a community center for public purposes. The 12 rural schools community clubs have achieved that purpose, and they continue to work diligently to preserve and to improve the facilities. Thank you.
It's quite a tribute to this group of people. They did a lot of hard work and in the political field to get this legislation passed, to put it on the ballot for the entire state to vote on it, and to have it pass, and then to have this go ahead and have the properties transferred to the county. We have another little quiz. 7 schools had German names. How many can you identify? Moisebach, all right. Luckenbach, I got 2. Rady? Rheingold. All right, let's see the answers. There you go. Nepkin? Cannot. And yes, there you go. All right. Marjorie Oddie, she's going to talk to us some more about the history of the Friends.
I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about what's going on at the 12 country schools today, but first I'd like to share a couple of my memories from the 8 years I spent at Rady. And the first one is most of the students, including me and my siblings, lived more than 2 miles from Rady, so we needed transportation. So this brought about the need for the district to provide transportation. A contracted system of school bus service was entered into with our neighbor Reinhold Herbert, entailing the use of his farm truck, and it was not the newest of trucks, as the transportation vehicle. The bus had wooden sideboards, and the top and sides were covered with a canvas covering, and then we had benches inside for seating. And usually one of the older boys would sit in front with Mr. Herbert, and he would get out and open the back cover at the bus stops for the students to crawl aboard. And then another memory is, I guess the country school curriculum was much the same as in the Fredericksburg schools. But of course, we had limited music instruction and no band at all. But we did have other extracurricular activities, and 2 that come to mind were our leather tooling and square dancing. And we got pretty good at making purses and belts and wallets and stuff like that. And everybody enjoyed the square dancing, and we girls got to have the square dance costumes that our mothers made for us. So that was it was different and fun. And then one more, the end of the school year always brought much excitement. It usually included a trip to places like the state capitol, Cascade Caverns, San Antonio Zoo, and the Sunken Gardens. But a still bigger event was the annual school closing. One objective of this event was to raise money for the school. Another was to entertain everybody that came. Ice cream, soda pop, candy, and of course barbecue hot off the pit were sold. That might not sound real exciting to our children for nowadays, but believe me, that was a real treat for us because we didn't get that very often. But entertainment throughout the day included usually a softball game and horseshoes and just plain visiting. And then in the evening, there would be a 3-act play that was put on by the students, which we had been practicing for weeks and was enjoyed by all. And we had a big front porch, and we'd put up our curtain, and that's where it happened. So okay, now I'm going to share a little bit with you about what's happening still happening at these country schools. First of all, there are community clubs active at each of the 12 schools. And many are meeting monthly with various activities going on, and some examples are just plain socializing, playing cards and dominoes. Some have dinner potlucks, and others just have snacks. And at Rady, I'm going to use that as an example since that was my school, we like our food, so we usually have a potluck dinner. And after dinner, we've had a variety of community speakers come in. About 5 years ago, we started inviting some of the early Fredericksburg stores and businesses to tell us about the history of their businesses. And we had some interesting ones like Dooley's and Sagner's Jewelry and a lot of them. And we continue to have speakers talk about health and well-being. And our upcoming one in August is on scams that the elderly especially need to be aware of. And we also have had some local charitable agencies make presentations as well. And the one coming up on scams, we'll have some law enforcement officers there, and also some of the people that work the scams, I guess, at Security Bank. So everybody's invited. Watch for more information on that in the newspaper. Membership in these clubs varies greatly. There are several clubs that have 75 to over 100 members, and some of these members support us financially, but they don't attend meetings. They may be from out of town or whatever. And actual attendance at these meetings varies from a half a dozen to 40 or 50 at the different schools. And we have located approximately 75 former students that are still living that we know of. And a little aside here is several years ago, we used to have 4th of July picnics, and so we had a member whose name was Henry Rady. He and his wife lived out east somewhere, and they were in the area, and they saw our July 4th picnic advertised, I guess, in the newspaper. So they decided to attend and have been members for a number of years, but we never did figure out whether he was related to Frederick von Rady, who the school was named after. And we do have a driving trail map, and there's some available, I think, over there if you want to pick one up. If you're interested. And this is a 120-mile map that directs visitors into the countryside to see one, several, or all of the schools. You can see early barbecue pits, outdoor pavilions, stages and stage curtains, teacheriches, tin schools, outhouses. No two are alike. You can spend an hour or a day driving the trail and seeing these country schools. These schools function as community centers, learning centers, rentals for birthday parties, meetings, receptions, reunions, youth hunts, and also rest stops for bicycle and auto group tours and even destination weddings. So most of the clubs have fundraisers throughout the year, which includes barbecues, garage sales, bingo, cookbooks for sale, and various other things. And there is also an open house at each of these properties throughout the year. You can watch for those in the newspaper, on the radio, Facebook, and sometimes posters at local businesses. All of these events are open to the public, and we would love to have you tour some of these historical buildings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope that you have gotten a sense about the country schools. Let me take a few minutes to talk about some of the practical things that have gone on in the years. First of all, in the beginning, the water for the schools came from cisterns. The water was collected off of the roofs. The water went through a filtration system. If you go to the country schools and look carefully, at the base of the school where the water comes down from the gutters, it goes into a concrete box. The concrete box has several baffles. Inside one of the baffle chambers is carbon in the form of charcoal. And so it goes through the couple of baffled chambers and then through the charcoal and then finally into a cistern. And on the cistern was a pump device, and that was how the students got their water. When the Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools began to take over the schools and began to work on them, L&L and Verdell drilling companies were contacted. Each one of those companies took 6 schools and drilled wells and provided pumps and provided the water that now exists. As was mentioned, they had outhouses. Some of the outhouses have been restored, so you can actually see what it was like. And modern restrooms are provided at the country schools. Well, all of the things that had to be done to the schools, new roofs, painting, restoration, preservation, all takes money. And the ladies and the men and people in these different schools raised money in a lot of different ways, but the amount of money needed was a lot. So we began to write grants, and we got grant monies from different foundations, as well as funds from the hotel occupancy tax funds. So that was a very good way to fund some of these projects, and we were very successful. There's probably been over $2 million raised over the course of the time since the beginning to repair and restore. That restoration and preservation is the goal and the responsibility of the Friends, and that's to present our mission statement is the preservation of the past to enrich the future. Okay, with having said all of that, I'd be happy to have the panel answer questions.
Yes, please.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay, thank you. Good.
So are there questions? Yes. We are the leaders. There are a few counties that there are groups in counties that have been trying to restore 1 or 2 schools. We have the largest single collection of country schools in America in Gillespie County. So there you go. And Jane.
I would like to chime in and say that the National Country School Association of America has verified that we have saved the most.
Let's try that again, because I'm not sure everybody heard you, and we were supposed to hand you a microphone, and we didn't, but we will.
Would you repeat your question, please?
Please, Jane, tell us your name.
I'm Jane Wolhoff, and the national group, Country School Association of America, has verified that this county has saved the most country schools in America. And we are members, and I'm a member.
Yes, it was really fun a few years back when the association met here for their annual convention, and we had the opportunity to put them on a bus and drive them around to the country schools. The driving trail, there are maps here for you to pick up if you'd like. The driving trails are really fun. It gives you an opportunity to see the vistas of the hill country as well as to get to visit the country schools. Last year, we had identified approximately 7,000 visitors to the country schools. About almost 3,000 actually spent the night in our hotels, bed and breakfast places of business. That's one of the things that we do is try to collect information. It's not perfect. It's a self-identifying thing at each of the schools. So we're able to identify the numbers or approximate numbers of people who have come to the country schools. And this is the information we use when we're applying for hotel occupancy tax funds, because we're able to demonstrate that the money is actually bringing visitors to the community and they are using the facilities in our community, the restaurants and the bed and breakfast and everything. So that's one of the important pieces of information that we have to be able to qualify for these grants that we have received from the hotel occupancy tax. Other questions? Yes, in the far back? Or we'll get one up here and then we'll get to you back there.
The Lower Colorado
Tell us
River-
your name first.
I'm Pam Allspaw. I'm a member of Brady School. And the Lower Colorado River Association has been very generous to give us grants for roofs, insulation, ceiling fans, heating and air conditioning. It's been a wonderful
Yes, LCRA.
partnership.
The LCRA community grant has really been very helpful as well.
This is Dana Rowan. You may have touched on this already, but as far as governance of each different school, does each school have a board or a group, and do they set like their own rates for like weddings and whatnot? And would you apply through them to have an event?
Right. Our website kind of addresses this. The Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools is an overall umbrella organization, and we have the tax exempt status, the tax exemption. The individual school community clubs, and each one of the schools has a community club, and each school has a representative on the board of the Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools, and that's kind of how it is set. Each school kind of does their own thing with respect to the rental fees, depending on the circumstance. But these are all groups of people that have a love for their country school and enjoy coming together at the country school. Now, there was a question in the far back.
Hi, I'm Diana Armbrust, and I live near Crabapple Creek School, and I'm wondering why we didn't get on your list of 10 creeks.
It's Crabapple, not Crabapple Creek.
So named after trees. But anyway, okay, so maybe you can verify this. The lore in my neighborhood is that 2 landowners in my area, you know what I'm going to say?
Absolutely. Go right ahead and tell us your story.
Okay, well, the lore is that 2 landowners wanted the school on their property. And I don't know why they couldn't figure out, which landowner was going to get the school, but finally they ran a race. Is that right? Like a foot race. And the winner got Crabapple School. Is that correct?
That is true. One of you ladies want to tell the story?
It was my ancestor. That what?
We have the answer.
My ancestor donated the land, yes. Congratulations. Thank you.
That is a very true story.
This was a great presentation on the 12, but how many were there to start with? And
44.
And do we have a list anywhere of the names of the rest of them?
Let me tell you that here at the Gillespie County Historical Society, Marjorie Oddie and Bernice Weinheimer spent years working at the courthouse, going through all the records, because these are country schools in Gillespie County. The records were kept at the courthouse. And these books that you see in front of these fold-outs, they are here at the society, and you can come, and we have them available to look at. So you can see if you have one of the other schools that was not in the 12. See, what happened is when the Gilmer-Aiken Act was passed and became law, it was a transformational educational act. School teachers got big raises, school districts got more money. There was this consolidation, and the people who lived out in the country and went to these schools, certainly many of them were adversely affected because they had to go into town to school. But it was a transformational act. And so when many of these schools closed, all the documents were there in the courthouse. And so these ladies spent several years very carefully going through the documents, collecting the information, and forming these books. So you can go and look up if there's a school around you, and you can see who went there. What's amazing is there was all the records on every student and how they behaved and what their grades were. And you do know, I'm sure, that Lyndon Johnson went to the school at Williams Creek, and he was kind of an okay student. But it's kind of fun. There's Francis?
I just want to add that we do have the plaque at the back of the Vereinskirche that lists all of the schools too.
Yes. And
yeah, going back to the schools. Matter of fact, this weekend, Tybedale is going to be open for the first time. The interior is now complete. We're still working on the outside of the school. There's some things we have to do to fix that up. But we actually are going to be hosting the 129th annual Schützenfest this weekend out there at the range. So it's going to be kind of a two-part deal. You can come see the second oldest tradition in Gillespie County, or you can come see the school that we have just restored. So it's not been open to the public ever. About 3 years ago, I decided to take the project on, and like I said, we are now about 75% complete. But it is open to come see if anybody would like to come out this weekend. We'll have a football band there. Bill Small will start out at 8 o'clock Saturday morning with the parade of the clubs coming in with the flags. And then if you want to stick around and drink some beer, you can do that Saturday morning. We crack the keg right after the parade. Tradition, guys. This is not me. This is tradition. And then we'll start shooting at 10. If you do come, might look at some ear protection if you get closer to out to the front, because it can be very loud. But normally probably Saturday 8 to probably 6 o'clock-ish. We'll wrap up shooting on Saturday, then we reconvene Sunday morning, and we'll be there from 9, and hopefully by 4 p.m. it's over, right? But if you want to see something neat too, the crowning of the kings is a pretty neat little deal as well. And we hoist the kings, you line up, and it's a whole, Bill Smallwood comes back out, and we play more polka music, and drink more beer, and drink more soda water, or whatever. We do have barbecue on the pit, where you kind of old-fashioned, you come out and stab your piece of meat and kind of have like an old-fashioned, everybody brings kind of something and all of that kind of jazz. So if you've never seen it, it is kind of something to see. We have a little new technology this year. We did have it briefly last year, but we are using cameras now. And so the shooters can see literally when they miss, because it was right there. So some like that, some don't, but it's okay. But if you get a chance, come out and see us.
The Schützenfest is really a very unique thing in our county, and it is second only to the county fair. And it is a marvelous example of a tradition that was brought with the early pioneers from the German shooting clubs. And the rifles are super long. They are falling block, single shot, 22, and the big guns are the 22 250s and so on. But it's a great experience. You have another question?
I do in the original.
Yeah.
No, it's muted.
Oops.
There's a button on the side.
In the original schools, about what age do you think the kids quit going to school and either left the farm or went to work with their families? I doubt if the majority of them went all the way through 11th or 12th grade. So do you have any idea how many of them stayed and about what age they kind of quit going to school?
But in the original schools, Margie, how many of them do you think?
Okay.
Actually, we have some records here. Sorry, what's happening? Some of the boys quit after the second grade, went to work. Irene's agreeing with me. My dad quit in the 7th grade, went to work, and never had any more education after that.
When they finished at Cherry Spring, it was the 9th grade. If they wanted to go on to high school, the only way they could go was if the parents rented a room. At least this is what happened. And Irene's sisters did this. They lived in a rented room in town Monday through Friday, and then the parents picked them up and they spent the weekend at home. And that's the way they finished high school. But a lot of the boys just quit at 7th or 8th grade and began working on the farm, and they stayed. And it wasn't, we finally got a bus at Cherry Spring, and I'm not exactly sure, probably when I was like 8th or 9th grade, but it came to the school in Cherry Spring, and if you wanted to ride the bus into town and back, you had to meet it at the Cherry Spring schoolhouse. And so that's where all of us would meet, catch the bus, go into school. And at that time, then nearly everybody went on in. But that was kind of, Irene Rody could probably answer this. Her sister did not stay in town with at a rented room, but her older sisters did, so there was just a little period of time there before we finally got the bus at Cherry Spring.
Any other questions?
Oh, I would like to add something to that.
Yeah, sure.
My brother, who passed away this year, who was 92, he and 2 of his first cousins, they rented upstairs over it used to be the Keeney Variety Store. It's now the Peddler Store. And those 3 boys lived there with no kitchen. They ate jelly bread and dry sausage all week. And they had no bathroom facilities. They had an outhouse behind the building. And they were told they better not run around in town. So they would sit in the window in the evening and look out at Main Street, but they did not run around in town.
Other questions? One of the important things, I think, is if you look at the curriculum, they had a very good curriculum, and the students actually did quite well. And some of the students went on to college, and some did some amazing things. We know the story of Admiral Nimitz and him growing up here and then moving to Kerrville. Well, there was another individual, a Mr. Sauer, who went to the school in Stonewall. When he graduated from the Stonewall school, that summer and I guess he had come into town for high school. In the summer after graduating, he went to San Marcos and attended Texas State Teachers College, I guess is what it was called back then. And he attended that school, and then in September, in the summertime, he went to school. Then in September, he started teaching down at Stonewall. And he did that for several years until he had finished 2 years down at San Marcos, and then he went to UT, and then finishing at UT, he went to Harvard and graduated from the School of International Affairs, and then became a diplomat serving in South America. Ultimately, he was serving at the embassy in Berlin in 1941. And so he went from serving, in the embassy in Berlin to being part of our diplomatic corps that served the governments in exile located in London during World War II in the European theater. Another topic that we've not said anything about that I know we need to say something about is the country school curtains. Jane Wilhoff, sitting here in the front, has prompted us to do a lot of good things with the country school. Each school had a curtain. I don't know where you can find the picture, but there is a photograph of some of the curtains. And the curtains were an important part of the school because it was part of the school closing. And as was mentioned by our panel, school closing was very important. It was the transition. Now, one of the things that was done early in the country schools was they rotated teachers to do the final exams. So you had your education by one teacher, and then when it was final exam time, another teacher came and tested you to see that there was a check and balance to make sure the students had actually gotten the knowledge for that grade and could move ahead. So the country schools, they were very essential to the communities and to the people of Gillespie County. We passed by it. Okay, too bad. Evelyn, I think it's
okay.
Time to
First of all, I want to thank this panel and all of the 12 schools that brought all of this exhibit. I think this is wonderful. Also, our Archive and Collection Office has gathered some more of their items. Jerry Hohenberger built a model of each of these 12 schools, which are on display in the exhibit room in the store, in our Pioneer Museum store, through October. So please stop by. We also have, Carter, what are some other things you put in there? No, books, textbooks, libraries, and they also have globes. So please take some time before the end of October to visit, and don't leave this afternoon without taking some more time to visit. I'm going to let Caitlin take over. I know you've been waiting to see who's going to win the gift prize.
All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and draw for that. So if you want to grab the ticket that you received, did everybody get a chance to enter for the door prize? Last chance? All right, we'll give it a spin and pop that guy back in there. Shake, maybe. All right, our winner is number 434238. If you are ticket 434238, you win the prize. It's Mabel Wilkie, everybody. Congratulations, Mabel. You get to win this prize. I'll set it down right here in front of you. How's that?
Thank you.
Of course. That's very
237.
fitting. Excellent. Congratulations. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for this presentation. A big thank you as well to the Hill Country Historical Foundation, who underwrote our live stream and video. And thank you to the Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools for being here, for partnering with us to build this exhibit and the exhibit in our gift shop space, as well as tomorrow's education activity. We hope that you will join us tomorrow for our first Saturday Living History Day here at the Pioneer Museum from 10 to 5. The education activity will be antique toys and games, and our volunteers are from the Friends of the Gillespie County Country Schools. We ask that you please take a moment to fill out the survey card at your seat. You can leave it on your chair or give it to any staff member before you leave. Your feedback is valued, and we appreciate hearing from you. Our next presentation will be Friday, September 5th. We will have Don Frazier from the Texas Center at Schreiner University, and his topic is E Pluribus Texas, a look at the whole story of the Lone Star State right at your fingertips. So we hope to see you then. Thank you so much for being here, and have a great weekend.